G'day guys, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to, I guess we're going to call this a refit. It was just a repair, but as I'm here and as the things that need repairing are taking a few days, I'm just doing other stuff. So we're calling it a refit. In Sorong, West Papua, Indonesia. So I'm in a place called Tampagaram. This is run by an Australian guy called Wick. He's been here since 1991 in this part of the woods. Very experienced man, very dedicated to the Raja Ampat area, very integrated, speaks perfect language, got kids here. He's amazing guy, helping out sailors since before sailors came here. And I've been here a lot of times, I've met him a lot of times, and we get on well, and he's helping me out a lot. So this morning I've been out to he's got this place, Tampagaram, which is a lagoony sort of thing here, and then up the river he's got a place called Helena Marina, and there he's got a haul out facility, and here's some drone shots of that. I went out there this morning. Beautiful area, I'd never been out there. You have to go up this winding river to get there, but it's all doable. There's mono hulls up there, there's multi hulls up there, and yeah, beautiful. I thought it was going to be a swampy place in the mangroves, but no, very nice place he's got up there, very well built. Anyway, we took the rudder up there.
Tidak. Kalau tidak berarti langsung ke sini. Terus mungkin langsung ke sini di bagian belakang di bawah itu tidak ada.
Alright, so we started work on this rudder. We sort of hummed and hawed about the best way to fix it, but because the bend is right down by the top edge of the rudder, the press would have to go there, and then you need 3 points. You need one here, and the press in the middle. And there was nowhere to put this end. It would have just been on fiberglass, which is not as strong as stainless steel, so it would have broken the rudder. So basically what we're doing is cutting a panel out of the rudder, digging out the foam, and basically taking the shaft out of the rudder. Then we can put it in a normal press, straighten it, put it back in, re-foam it, and glass it back over. And that's sort of what we're doing. And he's cranking it out right now. So hopefully that'll all work out. Right, so it was a little bit suspect to do this rudder this way. To me it's just like, I know how it is in Indonesia. It's all things going ahead, but then you open a can of worms and a lot of times you don't know what's inside the can. It turns out they're poisonous evil worms, but you can't go back because you've already started, and you just keep getting deeper and deeper into a hole. And sometimes you got to keep watching them because Indonesia just keep getting deeper and deeper, but then they don't know how to get back to where they started, and you end up with just, like in this case, they could open up the rudder and think, oh, I'll just pull out the shaft and do that. But maybe you can't get the shaft out without destroying the whole rudder. And then, you've got the shaft out, so you fix the shaft, but then you don't have a rudder and you don't have a mould, and then they'll end up hand laying a rudder, and it won't be the same shape I started with, and it'll be 50% heavier and 60% less strong than it was, and it'll cost me $2,000, so I'll end up with, well, just way worse than what I started with, and that's sort of what I'm worried about. And I don't know, we'll see how this goes. I'm 50-50 whether it'll work out, but I've been away for 20 minutes. We'll go back and see what they're up to. Alright, well, they got the shaft out in the end, so I left them to it. They're going to put it in a press and try and straighten that thing and then fiberglass it back in. As much as I was a bit stressed about it, you just got to let your hands go and be like, alright, let's just see what happens. So another job I'm going to do while I'm in here is a job that I've already bloody done, and it involves the trampolines. So here, remember with Mark up in Manado, I don't know, it's probably 8 months ago now, but it was a video, one of our patrons, Mark, came on board, and he helped me put these grommets in and do the lashings on the trampoline. Well, it turns out, I ordered them from Australia, and it turns out, got them from Bunnings, and they were supposed to be stainless steel, but I guess that was before, I don't know, China. So not stainless steel at all, just basically tin foil, and they've all just, that basically just started rusting the same day the same day we put them in, and they're not strong. I mean, look, these ones have already all just popped out, just absolute rubbish. So another friend of mine from the Gold Coast, he's a upholsterer, I think that's what you call it. Anyway, he had access to proper ones, industrial grade, heavy, thick, proper ones, and he bought me a bag of them over when him and his lovely wife Lily met up with us here down in Lombok a few months ago. So I'm going to replace them, but while I'm doing that, all these jobs are interconnected. This walkway here, I'll show you afterwards, but basically it's a aluminium lattice under this fiberglass thing, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a bit of a bend in it, just because you always end up stepping down from here onto here, and so you sort of step down with all your weight into the middle, and so it ends up just putting a bend in it. Because I've got to take all these lashings off anyway on the trampolines and replace the grommets, I'm going to take this middle section out, straighten the aluminium bars, and then weld some extra strengthening like angle irons underneath the bars to strengthen again so it won't bend again. And then put it all back together, and then I'm going to paint it actually, because this is super disgusting from the anchor chain. So I'm going to paint that. So that's a job I can do all myself while I'm waiting for all the other stuff to get done. So yep, I'm going to cut all these lashings now. So I cut all the lashings off. Now I just got to undo these 4 bolts on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then yeah, just pull this gantry out, and I'll leave the nets on. I can take the gantry out without taking all the rest and these lashings off, because it's hard when you take all the lashings off, because you got to put heaps of lashings back on, but it's hard to get the tension right. Whereas if 3 sides are already tensioned, the other ones it's just easy. All right, crack on. It's hard. Whew, doing things by yourself though, because the bolts go right through, well, nuts and bolts, so I got to go under, put a vice grip on there and attach it somehow so it won't turn, come back up, turn the top one, make sure the vice grip doesn't fall in the water when the nut comes off, so put the dinghy under it and tie the dinghy up so it stays in the same place, come back up. I can do that 7 times to get those ones off. Yeah, fun time by yourself. Okay, there we go, got it out. There you go, you can see the bend in it. And this fiberglass top, that's bent too, but that's just because it's taken the form of the metal, so won't be a problem. So I'll get that fixed. I'm going to send this off. I'll probably straighten this myself, just basically put some blocks under each end and jump up and down on it, straighten it. Looks pretty straight to me. Yeah, so I just need to weld some reinforcing on it to keep the strength, and that's a pretty easy job probably. And then yeah, I got to put all the new grommets in and do a lot of new lashings. But yeah, that's all good. That's all it's a bit zen work really. You can sort of sit up there on the front, getting sunburnt, getting cooked, getting cancer, and yeah, struggle with trying to limit myself to, 4 swear words a minute or something, It's quite zen like. I enjoy it. I made a little system here with a couple of, with a long rope. So I've got 2 ropes, one through a pulley up there. So I pull this rope and then pulls the dinghy back out. Like that. And then when I want to get it back, I'll just pull this rope, pull it back. So when I leave to go into town or something, I can just pull it back right out to the boat and tie it off. It's still, someone could just do the same as me, but it makes it look like the dinghy's attached to my boat and not just sitting on the shore. So a couple of days later, I got the rudder back. Well, my instincts were sort of right. It was actually still bent, and that fiberglass to back up nice and everything, so it was all good, but I sort of spent the money on, not really much change at all. Alright, so far so good. Yeah, it only goes to there. I can force it in further, but then I can't steer. And it needs to go not quite flush, but nearly, you know, it sits right down. And I can sort of get it in further, but then you won't be able to steer because it'll be too tight. So obviously that bend is still binding it up. I mean, there's no grease in there or anything. It might be slightly better with that, but it's not really solving the problem. The problem is that the shaft's still bent. So what I'm trying to do is, I found a bodgy way of trying to straighten it myself, because there's no way I'm cutting that bloody thing up again and putting it out again. So here, I'll put the camera down over here. It's a bit hard to film all this by myself, but so basically what I found here, I can put the rudder, this is the gateway to this part of the junkyard, and so the rudder actually fits straight through there. It's just the right size. So I put the rudder through there, and then, well, I'll show you. I'll put the camera down and... Okay, so now you can see my bodgy setup. I've taken the gate off the other side, off its hinges, and it also fits over the shaft, and the shaft goes through here, which means it's not a flat, like it's not one point, so it should protect it from kinking, because this is tube, not solid. Obviously if it's solid, there's no way I could dream of bending it, but it's tube. And so this round should stop it from kinking. So I'm just slowly, and this gives me pretty good leverage. Oh. Try and keep that a bit straight. This gives me pretty good leverage to try and bend it. And then I'm just sort of, I've done 3 or 4 already, and I'm just moving it a few mil or a centimetre each way, each time, so it's not trying to bend in exactly the same spot. But, you know, the whole pole and the ground twist as well, so it's hard to know. By myself, it's pretty hard to know. I'd need someone spotting to see if I'm actually moving it, but I'm just having a few tweaks and then taking it out and looking. And hope that it doesn't go like twang and just snap. But what are you going to do? I probably should have just done this to begin with, to be honest. But when we first took this apart, I just didn't imagine that it would be tube, you know. I thought it would be a solid shaft, but it's 30 years old, so it's obviously lasted, and it's not a very heavy boat, so obviously it doesn't need. Here is solid. They've welded a insert in. Anyway, yeah, see, that hasn't moved. I think I've tried it 3 times so far and haven't moved it at all. I'm just scared of doing too much, you know, but we'll try it. We'll just keep going slowly, I think. Yeah, not that incredibly easy thing to do by myself. A bit frustrating, but it is what it is. Marie and Eli left Geneva last night. They'll be halfway to Singapore right now. So that's nice. They're not going to be here until, what is it, Wednesday? Another 4 days. They're spending a few days in Bali to recover, and also there was no direct flight until Sunday, so they're waiting for that one. But they're on their way. They're getting closer. Well, it's only maybe 9 and it's probably only 8 in the morning, but I'm just dripping already. Oh, it's so humid here. Sort of looks like it. I might have moved it a tiny bit then. Might go along just a little bit more. Boat work. So The gearbox has been taken apart yesterday, but I haven't heard back. But the guy said he could just feel from turning it that it was the clutch that was, you know, making the whining noise, and the slipping. Obviously I knew the clutch was slipping, so, but he said the whining noise, so that it's probably good. I don't know whether, I guess normally with gearboxes what I've seen on YouTube is that the clutch gets glazed and it's all like mirror-like finish, and if you're going to replace the whole clutch, well, yeah, cool, but I'm not going to be able to do that here. But often they can lap it, which is basically roughen up both surfaces again, take the shine up, take the glaze off the metal part, and then it's not bronze, but I think it's bronze with a layer of something on it, and then you can just rough that up, maybe score it a little bit, and then you give it another life, probably for a few more years, especially if, you know, we leave Indonesia and don't motor as much. But yeah, anyway, that's moving. The shaft arrived, the piece of metal arrived from Jakarta yesterday, so they started working on that. I should have that by the weekend. If I can get this done by then, well then that's gearbox, shaft, rudder in. Engine mounts I've done, but I haven't, I've changed the front two on that engine, and the back two are ready to go, but I can't put them until the gearbox is on, because that's where the hangers are. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's always the same when you're doing boat work. It's always the same. You get all this sort of balls in the air, and all these projects started, and you can never just do one project, finish it, do another project. You sort of start this, you start that, but you're waiting for other people. And it sort of seems like the first week you're just getting nowhere. You're actually going backwards, because the boat's in bits and there's nuts and bolts lying around everywhere, and you've got greasy hands, and then you put that in the bed, and it's just a shit show, you know. And it's hot and sweaty, and you're not eating properly because you're tired, and that's just the way it is. And then the last few days of the plan, it all starts coming together, and things coming back from the other guys that have been working on them, and you get little jobs done, and it all starts to come together, and then you're like, oh, there was some method to the madness. There was some coordination, some thought, and it sort of works out always. And then you start getting happy again, and then you're like, oh, the boat's going to be way better than it was before, and in a couple of days, we're going. You've got to keep that in mind when you start, though, because in the start, it's just depressing, demoralizing, dirty, all the D's, I guess. But, yeah. Moving on. Okay, we've had some... Oh, I'm so buggered. It's so hot here. I'm in the shade, and there's a bit of a breeze. It's better than it was an hour ago, but still... yeah, I've had a bit of a win, I guess. I'm not quite happy. I can probably make it a bit better, but so I've got it sort of together, and I put the whatever it's called on it, and one-handed. See, the rudder doesn't move much on this cat. It only moves from there to there, but that's enough. And so, I mean, that's relatively easy movement now. I sort of think it used to move easier, so there's still a bit of friction, but that might sort of free up as we just, you know, as the autopilot's moving all the time. And there's probably salt water, maybe it's maybe lubricated, I don't know, but I've put some grease in it. I sprayed some like CRC WD-40 sort of stuff down there, so, and I cleaned it out with a rag, but it might free up more. Or what I'm also going to do is I've wrapped a stick but I'm going to get a longer one with sandpaper and just like give the tube a bit of a buff. It's a carbon tube, I found out inside, so I can give that a bit of a buff up and take a 1/4 mil or something off, and it'll smooth it out a bit, and I don't think it'll make much difference. But I'm going to take the other one out, the other side out, and then I want to compare the other one to this and just see. But how this is moving now, the autopilot handled that easy. Obviously just uses a little bit more energy if it's tight. In the meantime, I only just got back to this actually. I put a whole coat of paint on the hull and the whole cockpit, so that's my second coat. And this, I painted that, that's got 3 coats now, so that one's done. And now you can't really see the primer on the hull anymore, so that's sort of, but I'm going to do one more coat because from some angles you can see it. But the cockpit, I've only done half the cockpit because I was have to be able to walk around. So I've done the starboard side cockpit and the arch, 2 coats now. So I can take the masking tape off that, and tomorrow morning that'll be dry, and then that'll be my access, and I'll paint the other side. I've prepped the other side, sanded and masked it as well. So that's just 2 coats. I thought I would only do 1 coat a day early in the morning, because A, it's a bit cooler, and B, the afternoons it always seems to come squalls in, and I don't want to, as soon as the rain lands on the paint, when it's not 4 hours old, it leaves little dimples, it looks shit, so, and then you got to sand it all again. So I sort of do 1 coat, but it's Wednesday today, so that's Thursday, Friday, and then Marie arrives. The whole thing with getting the cockpit done is, the rest of the boat doesn't really matter, but the cockpit, when Eli's here, it would just be impossible to do the cockpit, because he's just going to walk out there and touch it and want to walk around in it and see what I'm doing and all that. Whereas if the cockpit's done and he can play in there and I can do other parts, like I'm going to do the whole sugar scoops, because they've got this yellow, greeny, shitty looking garden shed paint on them now, and it just look terrible. So I'm going to sand them, but I can do them sort of one at a time. We'll get off the other side or get on and off there, and then lock that one off, you know, so I can do that one and finish it, let it dry, and then do the other one. But we'll do that somewhere nice, you know, up on a beach somewhere beautiful, and then, you know, you can work for 2 hours and then go for a snorkel or something. It's much nicer than doing it in here. Anyway, moving on. Right, so we have made progress this week. Sorry I didn't get a video out last week. That's too tough to film and edit in this heat and try to get work done and all that sort of stuff. But yep, rolling these videos out now. There should be 1 or 2 more of this repair, hopefully, if everything goes well. Anyway, at this stage of the video, I've got to say a massive shout out and thank you to all you guys who are watching, subscribing, sharing these videos, and yeah, the main shout outs obviously go to those guys who support us the most. PayPal, Patreon, yeah, amazing. Thank you very much for you guys. You're putting food on the table, making it worthwhile to spend hours doing these videos. And yeah, nice to hear from you. Comments always welcome, good and bad. Well, not so much the bad, but the good ones are really good to read, and even constructive ones are really helpful too, because I don't bloody know that much myself. Mostly I'm just winging it and making it up as I go, as you see. Anyway, we'll keep winging it next week. See you guys. Till then, bye bye.